After Tremors 2, you just knew that they were going to make another one to make it a proper trilogy. But where can they go from here? The first movie set up the main characters that are living in Perfection, Nevada. It established a new, unique monster with some memorable kills and funny one-liners. The sequel ran with this idea, dropping a few of those main characters and adding another evolution to the Graboid life cycle. But what can they do in Part 3? Well, it looks like they're going back to Perfection. But first, it opens up in Argentina. I guess they have their own Graboid problem there. And they've called in none other than Bert to help them out. This time they've already advanced into Shrieker form, and they're coming right for him. But of course Bert's prepared, and he mows them all down. Now we go back to Perfection, and we can see that the small town's still trying to capitalize on the Graboid infestation that happened 11 years ago. As Bert pulls in, he's stopped by Miguel from the first movie, and even though he was a smaller character, it's still nice to see a returning face. Bert tells him about an anti-Graboid barrier he had installed at his house, which is basically just super thick concrete walls they can't penetrate. Inside Chang's general store, we see that Jody has taken over the business. After her uncle died in the first movie, she's the one in charge of the family business. And she's all about work, balancing the books and doing whatever it takes to try and make a little money. Bert comes in to pick up his mail and to brag a little bit about a gift he got from the Argentinian government, a watch that uses ultrasonic frequencies and syncs with the atomic clock in Boulder, Colorado. Jody does mention briefly about how Erland Grady did in fact open a Graboid-themed park, so hey, good for them. Speaking of theme parks, it seems like Perfection has its own entrepreneur in that business. Desert Jack Sawyer has moved in and gives tourists Graboid safari rides through the desert. But we can see that his adventures aren't so dangerous, but more rigged. Like I said, the monster attack happened 11 years ago, and there hasn't been a peep from them since, so he has to make it up. But the peace and quiet Perfection has grown used to might just be over. The next day at Chang's, we see Nancy and Mindy reprise their roles from the first movie. It's nice to see so many returning characters. It makes sense because they're going back to Perfection, the town it all started in. Anyway, Mindy had to drop out of school because they didn't have the money, and now she works at Arby's. And she does little odd jobs around town, one of which is fixing Jack's pants, which is appropriate because she wants to get into them. Jack introduces himself to Bert and asks him if he might do some autographs, or maybe even a weapons demonstration for all the tourists, who are currently taking pictures with the Graboid.
Mom, take a picture of me with the Tremor.
Oh, cute idea.
They're called Graboids.
Fun fact, this is Michael Gross's actual sister, Mary. A fun little cameo. With all that out of the way, we see Jack's on another one of his tours, and this time Mindy's tagged along to see how they pull it off. But things are different. They might not have to pretend like a Graboid's out here at all, because one really is. Luckily, everyone manages to evade it and make it back to town. Back at Bert's, he knows they're back and he's ready for it, which only excites him. He alerts everyone in town to get on their roofs, and Nancy proposes that this time they call for help. They're not cut off from the world like they were last time. But Bert knows that they don't have time for that. Soon these things will evolve into Shriekers, and he can't let that happen. So they head out to take care of the nuisance, using the same method from the second movie, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But they get stopped. It turns out Nancy did call for backup, which only complicates things more, because these agents won't let them kill an animal on the endangered species list, which Graboids are. So the conspiracy theorist, anti-government conservative Bert isn't too happy seeing them. And he knows that this could be the end of Perfection, if the government comes in and uses the eminent domain card.
You'd make us leave? That's not why I called you.
Eminent domain. And people call me paranoid.
After the agents try and fail to capture a Graboid, they ask Bert for help, and not wanting to lose his house to the government, he reluctantly agrees. Their plan is to load up a bunch of tranquilizers onto an RC car and have the worm eat it up. But they don't get their chance, because Melvin shows up. Yeah, another returning character. So that makes 5. Bert, Miguel, Nancy, Mindy, and now Melvin. Anyway, we can see that he's a real estate agent that's trying to buy up everyone's land and turn perfection into a bunch of condos. No time to really think about that, however, because one is coming in hot. They try to be quiet, but Melvin's pager goes off and it attacks. Melvin peels out of there, and Bert ends up getting trapped in a barrel and eaten whole by a Graboid. Is this the end of Bert Gummer? No, you know better than that. He radios Jack from inside the monster to have him lead it towards his house. He hops in his truck, and the monster follows after him, going as fast as it can to get him. Jack breaks through Bert's gate, and the Graboid rams itself into the cement barrier. And Bert just became the first person to ever be eaten by a Graboid and live to tell the tale. Later on, they're out hunting, and we see the geologist who came with the government agents out walking around in the desert. But something's up. He's covered himself with fire extinguisher fluid. And you know what that means. The Shriekers are here. It was smart of him to think to spray himself, but I guess he wasn't fast enough, and they got him. Bert radios back to the others the situation, and then he has a way to track them, using satellite imagery. And it looks like they're heading towards a canyon, which would be the perfect place to corner them and blow them all up. But before he can get there, there's a Graboid attack. They all make it to a rock, but all of their equipment, including the radio, is back at the truck. So they're gonna be here for a while. This particular Graboid isn't like the others. It can't evolve into Shriekers. It's much bigger, and it's white. So Bert nicknames it El Blanco. And it always seems to know where they are. They end up spending all night on the rocks, and in the morning come up with a way to get to the radio, which I feel like they could have done in like 5 minutes after being stranded, but okay. Using the radio, they make a distraction, and the monster takes the bait, giving Bert just enough time to get some guns and putting his truck into gear, sending the Graboid on a wild goose chase. They make it to the canyon where the Shriekers are and blast them. But something's off. There should be guts all over the place, but it looks more like they shed their skin. Uh-oh. Yep, there's another evolution. They go to look for Bert's truck, which is right where you would expect it to be, over the edge of a cliff. And just then, Jody spots him, the latest iteration of a Graboid. It looks a lot like a Shrieker. It still hunts above ground with thermal vision, but this one has a very special talent. It lights its farts on fire and blasts into the air. Okay, if you didn't know we're watching a B-movie, well, now there's no doubt. They manage to take this one out, but not before it kills Miguel. Bert radios back to Nancy to let her know that they can fly now, and the ladies escape inside, where they have to fight one of the creatures by themselves. And in the end, they end up hiding out in a meat locker. The others take a closer look at the body and find Graboid eggs. So this is the final form. These creatures blast off into the air, fly around as far as they can, and spread the eggs. Using an old mattress, they hide their body heat, and they walk to Bert's compound, thinking up of a name for these things as they go, which Jody settles on...
Oh, AssBlasters, how's that?
Sounds like a porno film.
Okay, a little too on the head, but fine. Finally, they make it back to Bert's house, which is Graboid-proof, but is it AssBlaster-proof? Nope. They all sneak away into a safe room and outside to an exit, locking the monster inside, but it's chocked full of MREs, and we know when the Shriekers eat, they reproduce. Bert has no choice but to blow it all up before that can happen. So he does. He blows up his entire house. Food, ammo, guns, it's all gone. It's about that time Nancy radios in with some good news, just bad timing. The AssBlasters are the opposite of the Shriekers. When they eat, they pass out and go into a food coma. So Bert just blew up his whole compound for nothing.
Oh yeah, I'm a masterpiece of self-destruction.
Running out of ideas, Jack thinks they should go to the Junkyard. Once they're there, they'll have all sorts of supplies to try to fight these things with. They know that they fly in the air using their stomach acid to rocket them up. So what if they use that to their advantage? Jack remembers making a potato gun when he was a kid. There's plenty of supplies here that they could make one and use it to shoot these things out of the sky.
A potato gun!
What?
A potato gun!
What?
It takes them all day to find supplies, and at night, they start blasting, taking out the AssBlasters until there's only a couple left. But like the giant worms, they're getting smarter. It dodges the flaming arrows and launches itself at him, getting inside the trailer and attacking Jack. They stab the monster and run, preparing for an explosion, and good thing too, because it blows up and destroys the trailer. But don't forget about El Blanco. How does it always know where they are? And that's when Bert puts it together. It's his watch. It's picked up on the ultrasonic frequency and it's able to track our hero's every move. The monster flips the trailer and Bert goes flying into an old mattress, with nothing between him and El Blanco. Thinking quickly, Jack grabs the watch off of Bert and Jody stays back to try to help him out. But guess what? There's another AssBlaster. It comes closer and closer and it looks like it's all over. But then Jack throws the watch onto it and El Blanco bursts from the ground and eats it up. Back in town, we see that they have a live AssBlaster on display, the one Nancy and Mindy caught, and they negotiate a sale, which in the end goes to Siegfried and Roy. But now Mindy has enough money to go back to school. Jack and Jody drive off to the sunset, and Bert, well, he's out on a very important meeting. He's toying with El Blanco, and Melvin shows up. He hops onto the rock, and Bert informs him that as long as this creature's here, perfection is protected land. Melvin can't build his houses and condos here. Bert steals his truck and speeds off, leaving Melvin alone, trapped on the rock. And that was Tremors 3, Back to Perfection. We're in full-blown cheesy movie mode at this point. But if you've made it this far, you know what to expect. This is straight to DVD and only for the hardcore Tremors fans. You know what you're getting into for this one. There's no Kevin Bacon, Reba, or even Fred Ward, but there is Bert Gummer. Michael Gross steals the show, and at this point, he's fully embraced the character. He plays Bert perfectly. So perfectly that, in fact, he won Best Actor at the Video Premiere Awards. For a straight-to-DVD movie that's a third in the series, that's saying something. As for the AssBlasters, it's dumb. There's no way around it. I don't know what they could have done for the next evolution, but this is just silly. It would make sense that there would be a Graboid safari, so Jack's character fits, and I'm glad they introduced Jody as Walter Chang's niece. All the returning characters were fun to see, especially Ariana Richards, who, don't forget, was in Jurassic Park. She's got enough money, she could just said no to the whole Tremors franchise. Tremors 3 Back to Perfection is only for fans of the first two, or if you really like cheesy movies. Up next, we're going to take a look at the Tremors TV show, so stay tuned for that. As for Tremors 3, I give it 2.5 rides inside a Graboid in a barrel out of 4.
The shipment of Graboid has 4 tentacles instead of 3. They look ridiculous.